Hello, and welcome to Women with AI, a podcast for women to share their stories, insights, and expertise while also engaging us in conversations about the impact of AI on gender equality and representation. Today, I'm speaking with someone who's not only a commercial strategist, global ad tech startup pro, consultant, mentor, and a public speaker, she also makes the time to organise wellness retreats, hula hoop, surf, teach yoga, and roller skate. So I can't wait to hear more about all of that later in our conversation. But before we jump into discussing her passion for AI, let me tell you a little bit more about today's guest, Joy Dean. Joy is an energetic go-getter with 18 years experience leading sales, data and partnership teams to success, and she's responsible for launching many leading ad technology companies during their reign across the digital ecosystem. As a commercially driven startup professional, her journey has been one of expansion and strategic connections. Joy is passionate about AI and its use and innovation horizontally across the tech and data landscape. Her ambition is to continually make an impact, leveraging her deep knowledge, dynamic personality, and growth mindset. And she certainly does all of that. Joy Dean, welcome to Women with AI.
Wait, thanks for having me.
That's great. So it's great to have you here, So before to get us started, how did you end up in your current line of work?
Oh, the long twisting and winding road of joy ending up in ad tech. I actually went to university. I have 3 degrees. I went to university for graphic design and visual communication, and then I switched over to theatrical design and visual communication extension costume designing. And I've always been really interested in creating. I've always been really interested in innovation, whether that was digital, whether that was taking something like a piece of fabric from a flat dimension, from first dimension to third. I've always just been driven by that. And in 2006, I think it was, a friend of mine was actually working at an advertising, an ad tech company called Tribal Fusion. And Tribal Fusion is now, it's gone through many different iterations. So it's Tribal Fusion, Exponential, then it went on to be VDX. And I got hired in as a junior kind of publisher account manager. And they were so worried. They were like, "You're going to get bored in this role. You've been," because at the time I was already doing like costuming, I was running my own business. They're like, "You're going to get bored doing this. Like, it's a junior role." And I'm like, no, no, no. I love to learn. So it's just another additional tool set that I'm bringing that I'll be able to kind of add to my wheelhouse. And surely within about 6 months, I was already getting promoted because my skill set from working as an entrepreneur really was able to be applied to anything. I mean, that's one of the things about women that do different
Yeah.
roles. We are able to kind of transition our skill sets into other
Mhm.
positions. So I did. And eventually the company started to globalize, and they needed someone that was not afraid to just run through the doors yelling and screaming about how great the tech was in another country. And so yeah, they were flying me out to England,
Wow.
and I kind of launched the UK division, and eventually I was going back and forth, and eventually they were like, "Do you want to move there?" And I was like, "Absolutely, let's go, let's do this." And they sent me to London.
Wow.
I think there was two other people in the company at the time, and from there, I've literally been doing that same kind of move over and over again. So launching the US company, I brought it to the UK. And now I take companies that are outside of the UK, whether it's in Europe or US, and I help them kind of roll out their products or their strategy in market.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's good. It's nice because it kind of it leans into what always been doing, which is I've always been an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. So it's kind of like being like a mini entrepreneur inside of a bigger bubble,
Yeah.
right? Because they hire me when there's no one else on the ground to basically launch and build. And that's what I've been doing my entire life. So
Wow.
I just kind of transitioned it into advertising.
Brilliant. And tell me about your work at Toby and how you use AI there. Because I'll get it right, it's eye tracking. Is that right? So it's
So, okay, so let me tell you,
mm,
Toby the mothership Toby has
mhm,
been around since 2001, and it is a world leader in eye tracking and attention computing. And when I say best in class technology, I really mean it. Like they've spent the bulk of the earnings of the company are going into R&D for the eye tracking.
yeah,
And that eye tracking has only recently in the last like 6 years been used in the advertising space. Previously, they were using it for healthcare, for DMS, for gaming, for education.
uh,
So all to using technology to make people's lives better, basically. Early on, discovering like early onset um and now this word is
Oh,
Alzheimer's. There you go,
yeah.
Alzheimer's,
Wow.
or things like brain trauma. So using eye tracking to actually understand
Mm.
cognitive response and behaviors,
Yeah.
and then using that to make analysis and inform decisions about someone's health care. I
Wow.
mean, it's amazing. So they eventually, in the last, as I said, 6 years, wanted to start providing this data to the digital ecosystem. And so that's where I came in.
Mm.
I came on board to launch a division called ATEX,
Mhm.
which is an attention data exchange. And it's literally taking eye tracking, using eye tracking hardware and technology to collect and measure data, attention data, and fixation and gaze data through the eye of an actual human on an actual page, on an actual ad,
Wow.
take that data as an output, and then pass it on to a customer that uses it in their platforms to create their, a machine learning or AI driven
Yeah.
algorithms. So it's really the foundation of, we're the enabler. We create the data sets that are given to others to then build on top
Mhm.
whatever kind of um, artificial intelligence that they deem fit, or what's useful to their customers or useful in their long-term strategy.
Yeah. Wow. And so are you using AI to collect it as well? Or no, you're the data, you're providing the data
With the
that
data, I mean, there is some kind of machine learning
Mhm.
done in eye tracking in general. So eye tracking is when you have near infrared light, it's coming from a camera, the
Uh,
light reflects
yeah.
from onto your eyes, and the reflection goes back to the camera,
Mhm.
and then the computing system reads that. It takes calculations and fixations, and then pulls that data to determine what you're looking at.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of machine learning in this and the calculations of the information, but we are all about collecting the input. So this
Mhm.
really high quality, passive, always on and locally collected data sets from an opted in
Yeah.
panelist, putting it comes into the platform. Our data system then gives it an
Uh-huh.
analysis, right? So um, it puts it into its correct
Yeah.
buckets, right, if you will, in layman's terms. And then there's an output, and that output is attention fixation data against uh, ad um, ad delivery, and then we pass that on to the
Yeah.
customer.
And so
So yeah, so we're kind of the first step
yeah.
in the process of building an AI
Yeah.
platform, or the first step in the process of evolving something that you might already be doing by giving it more
Mm.
juicy, dynamic, sexy data points to then be able to build really robust systems on top
Yeah.
of.
And do you do sort of to avoid any bias and that kind of thing, like do you do equal amounts of like men and women? And I don't know, does it matter eye color? Because I mean there's got to be differences with men
Everything.
and
So
women. Like that's because my worry, this is what I'm trying to find
100%.
out as I discover more and more about AI is that kind of it's those data sets. It's making sure that it's equal data, that it's men and women. It's not being biased to one sex or the other. So how do you
So
overcome
this
that?
is one of the always going to be inherent biases in some data collection depending on how it's
Mm.
collected, because the whole idea is that you have to start, for AI to work or any kind of machine learning, you start with a data set,
Mhm.
and then you can, if depending on who's inputting that data or who's collecting that data, they can transfer their biases onto the data
Oh
sets
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
For us, because we are not creating the AI models. We are just collecting the raw data. So there's no bias in it. And because it's a panel that we're collecting it from, it actually allows us to see demographics. So we can see by age, gender, location, whatever it is, we can see what your attention fixation is. So we can tell the difference between a man and a man and a woman of a different age groups, different locations. So age, location, and gender. It's really, really raw.
Mm.
And I think it's a really good point to make, is that when you're working with any sort of AI or machine learning systems, you need to make sure that the inputs are as high quality, as unbiased
Mm.
as
Yeah.
possible. Because if you're making a prediction on top of a prediction, it leaves room for error and inaccuracy, which is why we always tell our customers and anyone that will listen, this is me shouting off the rooftop
Mhm.
here, is to always make sure that the input is the highest quality, passively collected, as unbiased as possible before you start using it
Mm.
to create your long-term
Yeah.
AI. Because garbage in, garbage out, right? Like if you don't use the most high accuracy pieces, what you get on the other end is also going to reflect that.
Mhm. Yeah. No, thank you for explaining that. And that because we're here on Women with AI, and I want to, talking to all these amazing women like yourself. And what are your thoughts on the sort of the future of AI and how it might impact on women specifically, or do you think it will?
Well, as a
Yeah.
woman, let me just let me just start there. I mean, I definitely think there's goods and there's a benefit and there's the negative. That's with every
Mhm,
technology. I think inherently data doesn't have in the space that I'm in data and tech, we don't have as many women on the forefront actually leading the strategy for
mhm,
go to market for AI or go to market for data or big learning or deep dive. All of that stuff typically around data or coding or any of these kind of more technical areas tend to have a higher percentage of men
mhm,
working in the space, leading the space, or being at a high decision making level within the space. And that's something that we as women need to, as we spoke before, like lean into making a
mhm,
change. And, for me, yes, the ladder should be thrown down, of course, but also I am empowering myself and I challenge every other woman
mhm,
listening to this to empower themselves to just immerse yourself in learning what it is and how it works and seeing if there's a space that you can slide into,
yeah,
because ultimately the roles that are impacted with AI are typically more creative roles. Marketing
mhm,
will be heavily affected by it, because now you can use large language models to create imagery, to create text. A lot of the stuff that you would do as a marketing exec
mhm,
or as a marketing strategist, which is like sales decks and creating collateral and creating branding, all of that stuff can be done using AI.
mhm,
So those roles are typically female roles. That's going to go, or it will at least have much it will impact the amount of jobs that will be available in that sector, which means then you're all fighting for one
yeah,
spot. Whereas if you can learn how these large language models work and how to use these inputs, kind of call and response setups, then it will make you more desirable as an employee, right?
mhm,
So you already have the creative skill. This can then be an application of your creative skills. I think also the positive is you've got great opportunities for data visualization. So making things that seem really difficult to understand to make them a lot easier to because you can look at it. You
mhm,
can actually use AI to take data points and visualize them into something that you can look at, right?
yeah,
You can use it in so many ways. I mean, even the things that we were doing previously for, an eye tracking, so healthcare and DMS systems and all of that, AI is going to help a lot with that. So it's great,
yeah,
but again, make sure as a female that we don't just assume that it's not for
yeah,
us, because it's all for
yeah,
us. It's ready. Go pick it, go pluck the cherry, grab the apple.
yeah,
It's just about figuring out you know, how it works. And that's ask questions.
yeah,
That's, go online. That's sign up. I mean, you asked me before about where to find this stuff. Like I
mhm,
just started going to it's an app called Domestika. Shout out to
mhm,
Domestika. And it's literally top level, online courses that are done in a more creative way. So if you're more creatively leaning,
mhm,
than something like going to an online course that's just reading a bunch of materials online.
mhm,
So it gives you an easy way in. It's got lots of different use cases. And then if you find something you like, then you would go and, maybe do some training. Or if you're in a marketing role already, speaking to your employer and saying, "Hey, I'm really interested in
mhm,
learning more about how I can use AI in my role,"
yeah,
and start learning that way and seeing if you can get additional um
yeah,
assistance. And ask a friend.
yeah.
Call me, DM me, slide into my DMs. I'll help you out.
Yeah, no, I love that advice. You're right. It is. It's about leaning into it and not being afraid. Because I might have mentioned this before in the podcast. I don't know. There is. I think I did. But there's a BBC article about women not using it. I mean, this was last year, and sorry for repeating it, but I think it's really important because women, as a woman, or you might think, oh no, I don't need that. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to, have that need to maybe sort of prove yourself sometimes. It's like, no, if the help is there, take it, use it, and
Exactly.
learn to use it, because actually, the more you use it, you'll get quicker. It will get quicker. It will do a better job at providing you with your social media post or your marketing plan or your news
Hmm.
release, from a sort of marketing, that's what I use it for kind of point of view. But listening to other people talk about using it, and the more you ask it to create an image or something, it's about you knowing what you want it to give to you. So you're
Yeah.
right. We can only use it if we do lean into it. And
100%.
start using
And
it.
also it removes, because remember, if this is a learning model,
Mm.
if this is a like if you look at generative AI, it's about feeding in data
Yeah,
sets, and then it can learn from those data sets to then create new data sets in similar
yeah,
fashion in the same kind of
yeah,
style. We need our voices in it.
yeah.
So the more women that are using these kind of large language models or being involved in working in AI, it's getting our voices into those training sets as well.
Definitely.
And that's like, we need to have women of all
Yeah.
colors. We need to have women of all backgrounds. We need to have women of all coming from different regions.
Mm.
So we can also feed into these systems
Yeah,
so they can benefit us,
yeah,
right? Or if you're, want to start your own business, like this is a way. If you're a mom
yeah.
and you're like, or a mother, right? Or you're a caregiver, let's say, or maybe you're
Hmm.
a part-time grad student,
Hmm.
these models can help cut time for that's one of the best applications. It's like taking repetitive work and streamlining
Yeah.
it, or cutting down time that it takes to get something done, or giving you prompts to help you start something that is more difficult
Hmm.
for you. Maybe you don't know where to
Yeah,
start. These things can help you level up your efficiencies as one in your business, but also in whether or not you want to launch a business, or whether or
yeah.
not you need more time to do something else. And just trying to think about it less like this big scary beast,
Hmm.
and more like, what could my day-to-day applications of something like this
Yeah.
be? And then start there, because it makes it easier to learn from, because it's your
Yeah.
day-to-day, right?
Yeah. Accept the help is there. Use it to make yourself better. There was something that I saw this week or that's been out recently and made my blood boil. It was about going into ChatGPT and asking it to do a kind of a job review, or kind of like, how someone done for the year, the kind of thing. And they put in all the details, and they put in a man's name, it was John, and then they did the exact same and said, can you do the kind of appraisal for the woman, for Jane? And oh my God. But it is just learning from what's
Completely
been in there.
different.
So there's probably like a
Hmm.
100 billion thousand, okay, I exaggerate a little bit, but good appraisals for a man, and maybe there aren't so many for a woman at that same level, just because there haven't been that many. It's not that women are worse or that men are better, it's just not there. But it
It's
just
what's
it
available.
just spat out something that was like, oh yeah, John exceeded everything, he was great, da da da. Oh, Jane, oh yeah, she met at all the expectations. And it was like, what? All you but it
That's that inherent
Yeah,
bias.
and
Yep.
it's the same. You see it. That's why you don't put your name or your age, or on
Hmm.
job applications now. Like, depending on where you're going, obviously, and whether it's for. Everything else, all the details need to be stripped back
Uh-huh.
so that you can
So
make.
it
Because
can.
we do all have that. I guess that, well, unconscious bias, or it's
The
very
ins
easy, isn't it? To
Yeah, I mean, I think if you think about what these models are, I think, what was it? I just was reading. They said that when this Chat GPT was coming out, it's trained on data from like 2000, what was it, like 2021 or something like
Yeah,
this. So the information that it has to work from is the information that's out there.
yeah,
We live in a patrilinear
yeah,
society. There are the expressions of or representation of men and women are very
hmm,
different. So what it's learning from
yeah,
already isn't accurate. It isn't, well, it isn't
no,
complete. And then there's fake news,
yeah,
and then there's all kinds of, user generated content that it's pulling from as
yeah,
well. So we have to think about those. I mean, it leads right into the issues around it. The negative side of it is like privacy, fraudulent
hmm,
information, or just deep fake. Or I was just reading an article someone shared in another group that I'm on, and it was about the one of the senior leads at WPP having a deep fake attack on him, where someone had used AI to clone his
oh
voice,
wow,
and then went to try to, yeah, to open accounts with clients to
God,
get them to invest money, or other people that have been,
yeah,
using their voice activation or the clone voices for the bank, like getting, people losing, millions of dollars. And I literally just, it was maybe a month ago,
mm,
I saw the release of like an updated voice cloning,
wow, yeah,
technology, and I was like, why would you ever? I don't, why would I need to clone my
yeah.
voice? And people are like, oh, but you can leave messages from beyond the
Oh God.
grave, or you can use it to make the, and I'm like, for me, if I clone my voice, and also I watch a lot of
Yeah.
sci-fi. I watch a lot of sci-fi with robots like pretending to be you and like
Yeah.
taking over your life. And I just think it opens up opportunities for a lot more fraud than
Yeah.
than the benefit
Yeah.
would bring
Yeah.
me.
Just because you
But
can doesn't
again,
mean you should. do that. That's the thing. We
Exactly.
create all these things are being created that could do this, it could do that, but should it? Do we need it? There was
Yeah.
there was a drama, a BBC drama, maybe it was like last year, the year before. I can't remember the name of it. We'll find it. But it was about people changing the CCTV cameras. So crime's being committed, someone's sitting on a bus or someone's in the street, but they were actually changing it. I mean, but thing is, it seems far-fetched, but if they're doing it, you can guarantee it's being done or someone's going to work out it.
100%.
They were changing the voice. They could change the person's, whether they'd got on the bus, got off the bus, done. I'll try and find what it was called and send it out. But it's scary that it's doing that. And then you don't know what to believe. And then the person's on TV and they're recording a live, what they think is a live, interview. And actually, it's not. There's the delay. They've changed it. They've changed what they've said.
100%.
It's terrifying. So,
I mean, they do this all the time in Mission Impossible, changing the.
the fake face. I mean, it's the same.
I mean, it's interesting that and it's fun. It's funny, but it's also really it's interesting because technology, with all of its benefits, it always has these kind of byproducts of negativity, and there's always scammers in anything that you do. There's always scammers.
I mean, a signature, really. What does that prove?
Right. Yeah. So. I do think that there has to be, we're still this is like the rise, right?
Yeah.
So we are in a time where we still need to put protocols in place. We need to make sure that all the data collection. So if you think about us with eye tracking, right? We are able to track eye color, eye gaze, eye shape, if you're wearing glasses, if you're wearing a hat, like to get really, really accurate information. Now, if you don't have privacy and protocols in place to protect that information, like we don't share any personal identifiable information. We don't share anything that's about the user, just about an aggregated group number, But if you were to have your hands on data sets that could alter, which generative AI does, it can alter the appearance of something or create, I mean, you can create fake people and they actually sound like real people and look like real people. There's an agency that does it with they do it's a Spanish agency, and they do oh my God, influencer marketing, where they created a fake person and she's a model. So there's a huge rise of these AI models. So you don't have to pay a human being. You have a fake person that looks like a real person. Like, it's getting so good. And then it can, sound like a particular person, or they've made up a new voice and put that out, and it could be part of your marketing strategy. There's companies using it for campaigns. There's, brands that are testing it out for advertising. So there needs to be obviously some regulation. So it says, I personally think it should say, if you are selling something or doing an ad campaign or whatever, and it's representing a person, but it's not a human person, it should be defined 100%. Or should be marked in that way. Like, this is an ad using a AI generated model, something like that. So we can start to maintain control of what we're seeing and what we're using, and not just be completely in the dark.
Yeah, because then you've made your own decision as well, whether to trust it or believe it or go with it. And we do, you trust the famous person that's maybe saying this, but you might get someone that's promoting the vegan sausages, and then you find out that actually they eat meat, and you're like, what? But it's you've lied to me, and it's like the same. You might be thinking, oh, I really like that woman or that man or whoever I'm following, and you're like, oh, hang on, they're not real. I mean, there's someone behind it, but it's not. It's a team of people. But then that's the same with that. All famous people. You see them. We've seen all the pictures from the Met Gala recently, but if you see behind the scenes, they haven't just stepped out of the car looking like that. There's a team of people behind them doing the hair, 100%. Doing the makeup, blowing, the dress in the right way, or the tuxedo, and
like holding the kit.
So it's.
I mean, and by the time the images reach us, they've been airbrushed and photo. I mean, can you think about it? Like, AI is just another level of what we've already had.
Just another
things
tool.
Like Photoshop is what I studied in school, right? And you can warp the body, change the body, change the image, edit the image, and this is an extension or a leveling up and an enhancement, and of that, it is creating. It's kind of what we've always done. It's kind of a human thing to do. It's like we're always trying to be better and make our tech better. So let's figure out how all of us can use it for the better, but also to keep it clean and know what we're using and when it's being used.
I think, and that's the important bit about getting more women involved or using it and inputting into it, so it is
more representative.
It's okay. That's all the bad, scary stuff. What excites you about AI? Like, how do you use it, or can you do you use it in your, I don't know, what are your passion projects? And
I mean, this is the same things that I mean, the same thing that is can be scary about it are the things that also excite me
Mhm,
about it. Like I went to school to be an artist. I have an
mhm.
MFA.
Yeah,
So
wow.
I love creating things. So I love being able to sit down like if I take a photo of something, I don't know, I've got like hula hoops right here next to
Uh-huh,
me, right?
awesome.
And I take some pictures of my my studio. So if I'm like hula hooping and I take a photo of me hula
Mhm,
hooping and then I import that into my into a platform and I start adding on detail to it. I can put it into like whatever world. I can turn it into
mm,
steampunk image. I can make something from my own work
yeah,
and then I can embellish. Now, the scary part of that is always like someone else taking your imagery and then turning it into
mhm,
something and you don't get credit or things like this. But I love the idea that you can create alternate worlds. I love the fact that you can use it to have efficiencies around like I use
mhm,
it for sales decks and collateral brand pitches. I'm trying to build a festival in Portugal at the
wow,
moment. And I use it for helping me understand how to do an outline for fundraising.
yeah,
That's just like basic stuff, like large language, just using something
wow,
basic like a chat, like a chat GPT, like
uh-huh,
how giving me an outline of how I can actually start to build my fundraising products and getting prompts, putting in prompts and getting prompts back about things that maybe I didn't think
yeah,
about adding to because I've never done it before. So that's quite good. Or time saving, like all the repetitive data entry that I have to do from any kind of either a conversation that I've
mhm,
had or something that I've sold. And instead of, I got my notes here, instead of doing that, I can record it and it can just set it up for me, pull it out by category for me. I don't have to do that manual work. So it saves me time.
mhm,
Um, I think I mostly I use it in more of a marketing
mhm,
context and I use it more in a data organizational construct. I use it in a visualization construct because again, I work with a lot of data points at Toby. So when I get outputs, I like to see it. And we don't give these are not things that we give to clients, but it's things that I have for myself. So when I'm looking at data, it can be it's easier for me to understand it, but also it gives me ideas because I see it in a different way. So yeah, I'm much more of a use it to learn
mhm,
and then also to create fun things for kind of my own passion
yeah.
projects.
So I'm fascinated to hear more about the festival, but how has that come about? Because I mentioned earlier, right at the beginning, because you do wellness retreats, and which I think at the moment are just
Yeah,
for women, but that's just for now, isn't it? I don't know.
that's for now.
Yeah,
Next, we got to get the men in there,
yeah.
but that'll be the
But
festival.
tell me about that. I want to hear everything.
I mean, I like I said, I've always been a creative
Uh-huh.
and I always love making stuff.
Yeah.
So, and part of building and creating as an entrepreneur, I'm always looking for other avenues to do
Mhm,
that in. I get exhausted by the idea of the only time that I can do a client meeting is if we're doing it over lunch or if we have to go have a bunch of
mhm.
drinks. And because I'm getting older, so yeah, drinking like takes 2 days for me to recover from. So
Yeah, I
I,
hear
you
you.
you know what I mean? So what if it all started with the way that I brought this into my corporate life was it all just started with me being like, how much cooler would it be for me to take a client to do something that they actually remember
Mhm.
and it's a little bit different? And I started making roller skate events
Wow.
for companies.
Uh-huh.
So I did it for Envives, I did it for Ogery, I did one for OMD,
Mhm.
I did one for PhD. Group M, I was doing hula hoop classes.
Wow.
I mean, this is years
Uh-huh.
ago, right? And it was really exciting because one, I got to do something that recharged me rather than depleted me.
Mhm.
And I could also do something really fun for my clients that was different, that had nothing to do with getting drunk.
Mhm.
And it just really led from there. I started to then think, okay, well, how can I do more of this? Because I love it. And I started thinking, well, I'd gotten made redundant from Ogery at the time.
Mhm.
My father had passed away. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take a break from advertising. What am I going to do?
Mhm.
Well,
Wow.
I'm going to travel around and hula hoop and roller skate. that was my plan.
Wow.
So I actually created a B2C
Mhm.
event. It was the very first one. It was like wellness, hedonistic wellness, play-based wellness in Ibiza.
Mhm.
And I just rented a
Mhm.
villa and invited a bunch of people. I didn't think anybody was going to come and want to roller skate and hula hoop the crazy
That
things that I
sounds
do, right?
amazing. Yeah.
And it just sold out. It sold out
Wow.
immediately. So I've just kind of continued doing that. I mean, I'm from
Mhm.
California. I've always roller skated down by the beach. We have a very kind of Southern California is very beach, sun, skates, hoop,
Mm-hmm.
wellness kind of versions of wellness is really prevalent
Yeah.
there. So it's always been in me. And it's keeps me young and happy and playful, and I feel a bit silly, and you can laugh at yourself, not take yourself too seriously,
Yeah.
and all of those things are also, they feed my productivity in my day job,
Yeah.
because then I'm light as air, I'm light as a feather, and I can go into my meetings with such a sense of joy
Yeah.
in me, pardon the pun. But such a sense of joy in me because
Yeah.
I'm feeling my own well, creatively, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and then I can go out and work in this industry that requires a lot of me as a female, as a woman in data, as a woman in
Yeah.
AI, as a senior leader, as a lot. I need to be at my best, and this is what these kind of play-based wellness events do. It's not too hippie. It's not too like Om Yoga Chakra.
Yeah.
It's like we're gonna play
Yeah.
like we did when we were little kids, and then you're gonna take that into the rest of your life, and you're gonna pass it on to others. It's like that.
Yeah. I love it. I've definitely been checking out all your posts from your last trip on Instagram. I'm definitely there. Let me know when the next one.
You gotta come. It is such a fun thing to do, and you also build community that's
Yeah.
around, like shared interest, and not. I keep saying this, but not around alcohol. And
Yeah.
I bring that up a lot because I think in our industry it's changing.
Yeah.
In ad tech, it's changing. There's a lot more, alcohol free events and things like
Hmm.
that. But in ad tech, it typically tends to be much more booze
Yeah.
heavy. So we as women can create alternative
Yeah.
ways to connect.
Exactly. And it is just to be completely stereotypical because a lot of the, industry, a lot of trade fairs, trade shows. I've worked in an industry that was really male dominated, was the water cooler industry. And I'd go and, but it's all the guys, they're all drinking, they're all going for
Yeah, it's where the
drinks.
deals are
And it
done,
is, that's when
like
the
you have a
handshakes
beer.
happen and all the rest of it. And you're like,
Exactly.
oh, there's got to be a better way. And you found it, I
Found
think.
it. I mean, and the great thing is men come to these roller skating events as well.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant. Everybody's welcome.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I definitely want to be a force for bringing good
Yeah.
into our digital ecosystem, and whether that's through my ad tech, my digital sales, eye tracking, attention computing,
Mm-hmm.
how helping women get involved with AI, or even just having, I mean, I would love the idea of just creating like meetups.
Mm.
Why don't we have women in AI meetup,
Yeah.
and we all just get together, whether you know anything about it or you
Yeah.
don't, and we can sit around and talk about like how it affects our lives and how to bring it into each other's lives,
Definitely.
and then we can do some
Yeah.
roller skating
I
after.
think, yeah, please, I think and you need to teach me how to hula hoop. My niece can do it. She's 7. She's 8 now. No, she's incredible. She just give her a hula hoop, she's off. I'm like, what? Am I going backwards and forwards, side to side?
Yeah, lower center of gravity. It's
Ah,
easy for kids.
oh, okay. That makes me feel better. Thank you, Joy. Well, I could talk to you all day. This has been so interesting. And I think you're right. I think it's using AI, it's leaning into it as women, using it to skill up, and just make sure that we are there, that we're just getting our voices heard and getting out there and
Yes, be a part of it. Be a part
yeah,
of the
and not be
rise, and
scared of it.
rather than waiting for it to tap you on the shoulder,
Yeah,
like get involved in whichever way possible.
yeah. And I love that you said, yeah, just search for it. Like I did. I asked you before, and I was gonna, I always ask all our guests at the end, how can people learn about what they've told you? But you're right. It's just getting out there and like reading the articles, put it into Google search, put it into wherever you get your news from.
Yeah.
But what is the best way for people to find you? How can people get in touch with you and find out what you do?
So I'm everywhere. You can find me on LinkedIn, The Digital Dean, or Joy Dean,
Okay.
but it's The Digital Dean.
Mhm.
I'm on Twitter, The Digital Dean, Instagram, The Digital Dean, and I'm actually going to start releasing at least LinkedIn articles weekly about exactly this topic, women in AI.
Wow.
So how to get started, what you can do. So please
Great.
get in touch with me if
Yeah.
you have any questions. I'm happy to help. Or you can find me at my email, joydean.com at Toby. Joydean.com? Joy.dean at
There
Toby.com.
should be joydean.com. If not, you need to get it. Oh, brilliant. Well, we'll put links to all of that in the show notes and when we share it and everything. And I just, yeah, everyone needs to start hooping and skating and
100%.
yeah,
100%. We'll all be so fit.
yeah,
Rock hard abs.
yeah, doing it. Oh, Joy, thank you so much for coming on Women with AI. It's been a real pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a great
Thanks for
time.
your time.